everyone, Jordan Rochelle here. Welcome to the Intuitive Astrology Meditation Circle. Today we're going to be talking about the moon. Right now I'm at the beautiful pyramid of Teposteco. It's actually closed due to the earthquakes that happened here. We're pretty close to the epicenter here, and I have to say there is a lot of dragonfly and hummingbird and, as you can see, beautiful flower magic here. And I was speaking to a friend about the spiritual essence behind the earthquake, and she was saying that there has been a lot of magic that's been buried here intentionally by the Ascended Masters in the, I think it was in the 80s, maybe 85, when there was the famous first big earthquake in Mexico City that really shook it up, and that some of the magic was buried because the people couldn't necessarily handle it at that time, but that since we are evolving to the point that we are now, that now we can handle it. And so a lot of that magic had to be essentially shaken up from the earth to be able to rise up. And so I'm here very intentionally soaking up some earth magic and meditating on Grandmother Moon and my own personal connection to Ascended Masters and just Gaia, Mama Earth. And so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about moon phases. I posted something on Instagram about a week ago, and just, for fun, kind of a little blurb on what does it mean depending on what phase of the moon you're born under. We can go really deep here. In astrology, it's never just about one thing to tell the whole story, right? We have to look at everything to find the entire story of who you are, your evolutionary intent, why you're here, what is your life purpose, right? But when we're looking at the moon is this beautiful integration point between everything that came before, right? Our past lives, our lessons, our challenges, and essentially what we're trying to evolve toward in this life. And so the moon is that stabilizing force, that integration point between our past lives and our desired nature of the past, and also how we are currently evolving. And so you can look at this a couple ways. Look at the sign that the moon is in your chart, and that's going to give you a little bit of the characteristic of how you get your emotional needs met, and also how you, again, find that balance. Remember that the moon is always changing. We're always going through cycles. And so where you have the moon in your chart is also this place where you find a rhythm. There's a pattern to be observed. Looking at the house that it's in, it's going to tell you the area that, you are really here to put forth a lot of your emotional energy in order to be satisfied on the soul level. Because remember, the moon has nodes, south node, north node. When we're moving from the south node to the north node, we're coming from all of our strengths, gifts, talents, abilities, past life patterns in the south node, and we're evolving towards what is represented by the energy of the north node. It's our destiny. And even better still, the north node is actually the activation point for our evolutionary intent, which is something really special. I think I'll talk about that in another video, but that has to do with Pluto and the exact opposite point of Pluto in your chart. And if you are really curious about that and just can't wait for another video, do some research on Jeffrey Wolfgreen. He absolutely pioneered evolutionary astrology and has a lot of free videos on YouTube that you can learn about. It's super fun. So the moon represents our self-image. Who do we view ourselves as? A lot of times we tend to think, okay, we are our sun. Our sun is actually our current life purpose. But a lot of times we don't really start to identify truly with our sun sign until we're a little bit older. Oftentimes until we're past our first Saturn return. So that's like 28, 29. And 28 is actually a very special age when we're considering the moon as well. The 28 is the age of emotional maturation, emotional culmination, where in our progressed chart, the moon has returned to its natal point. For example, I'm a moon in Aquarius. When I was about 14, the moon was halfway through the progression point, and it was a Leo, so I was a progressed moon in Leo at 14. Think about that. When we're in our teen years, we're kind of at the opposite point of the best way to get our emotional needs met. Let's just say that. And then as we come back around to about 28, we start to get to this point where we're like, oh yeah, this is the best way for me to get my needs met. And so I'm going to honor my moon in Aquarius and honor the fact that I need space and honor the fact that my mind works like a library and I'm never going to forget anything, but that I can, learn to use everything that I know in a place of compassion and healing. Because if I think about it, my north node is in Pisces. And so it's all about compassion and healing and finding oneness and going with the flow and seeing that we are all part of a whole, etc. So enough about me, more about you. So when we're looking at that part of ourselves that we generally don't show right away to people, but we can really start to connect to it in our own lives to understand how to vibe with our own flow. So looking at what phase of the moon you're born under. There are 8 general phases, but you can also break down these phases to the exact degree, to the exact aspect, to the exact percentage that the moon is full or new. But when we're talking generally, we've got 8 moon phases, right? We're starting at the new moon. That's the beginning of a series of incarnations and life cycles. And then we're moving to the waxing crescent, which I am part of that group. So new moon is obviously when the sun and moon are conjunct, right? So we've got the sun and moon together. They are essentially trying to find the purpose of this series of incarnations. So everything feels new. You're beginning a cycle. You're really starting to see who you are, full of potential. And then when we're moving to the waxing crescent, we're still, it's that tiny little sliver of the moon when it just starts to show its light again, but we still don't fully know who we are, what we're doing. And so there's a lot of discovery. There's a lot of, that need to find the truth of who you are and why you're here and really assert yourself. And also, I really view the moon in general as a point in our chart where we're actually trying to release ourselves from the social and historical conditioning of the past, but especially with these moon phases that have more dark than light, because it seems to be a little bit more connected to the past than the now. And so especially these people with the waxing crescent, they're very connected to the past and have to work really hard to let go of that social conditioning in order to create a new identity and stick with it. These people are also very much known as the rebel. Whereas I should say for the new moon people, they are known for being of leadership, guidance, etc., bringing light to others. Okay, first quarter, that's when we got the half moon. This is the waxing first quarter. So this runs from the waxing square to the inconjunct between the sun and moon. And the moon, therefore, is about a quarter way through its current set of evolutionary cycles and incarnations. There's an element of tension here, right? Because it's a square. And if you look at a birth chart, the sun and the moon are at a square to each other. Squares always represent tension, creative tension, and so there's an element of overcoming the tension. Again, that tension of the past. It's that point where you're actually breaking through the soil to really start to emerge the seedling up into the light, up into, fruition. Waxing gibbous is our next one. This is when the sun and moon have the angle of 135 to 180 degrees, and that's the waxing in conjunction. All the way up to the opposition, right? So just before full moon. This is when the moon is almost full, but not quite full. And these people are very much about teamwork and working together for the social cause. And if you think about it, a lot about bringing light to everybody. This is very much the archetype of the lover and the helper and of being sacred service in devotion to the whole. And then we've got the full moon. This is the sun-moon angle of 180 degrees up to 225 degrees. So this is the opposition, the exact opposition with the moon like fully full. Also all the way up to the waning in conjunction. So when it just a little bit starts to quieten down. This energy is very strong. Big emotions. These people are at the culmination. They've already flowered. They're here. You can see them. And they can see themselves, and they're very aware of themselves emotionally. And they're also still trying to find that point of balance, right? When we think of oppositions, we're really looking at the integration of opposites that generally presents itself through other people. And so these full moon people are very out in the open, very in public. They're really working through relationships. Full moon people can have a series of relationships or a series of, not necessarily crises, but tensions, oppositions, things that bring out a sense of, okay, that's you, this is me, now how do we cooperate and how do we work together and how do we find our sense of wholeness together? And these people are very much in leadership positions, lots of doctors, people that are very assured of themselves. Okay, and so they're very much artists, full moon babies, intentionally creating their world through relationships with all of life. So that includes all of life, not just people. And then we're looking at the waning gibbous, also known as the disseminating moon. And so this is the sun-moon angle of 225 to 270 degrees. So this is moving between the waning inconjunct to the waning square. So we're back to square, right? But it's not quite the same as the first square. And this is also associated with Lammas, the annual wheat harvest that occurs late August each year. And so this period is very much associated with gratitude. And so if you are yourself born under a waning gibbous or disseminating moon, you can really embody the archetype of the shaman or medicine woman in this life rather majestically, because you are so close to nature and so close to that sense of abundance, gratitude, appreciation for your life and the lives of others. You also desire very strongly to be totally liberated from the pressures of other people, the pressures of society. And so you have a very strong need to connect with your true life purpose. And so these people, you can find them tend to be a little bit more spiritual, a little bit more off, having their own journey and starting to come into that phase, that descent into the darkness again, purposefully. Okay, the last quarter. So this is coming from the square, the waning square, and then into the sextile, but once again on the opposite side. And so this is 3/4 of the way through a series of incarnations. So it's going to be totally different than somebody with a first quarter square moon to sun aspect. There is a very key element of finding your wisdom and your own intuition, your inner guidance in this phase. Is associated with the fall equinox, right? So again, that point of balance, that turning of the seasons, it's officially the nights are coming to be longer than the days. You're coming to the corner of the completion of your cycle, and you're starting to reorient yourself so that you can make the full plunge into the wholeness of who you are in oneness with your life purpose, integrating the past, and so on. All right, and then we come to the final phase, the waning crescent or the balsamic. And so again, this is a waning crescent, and we've got just a sliver of the moon, but it's totally opposite the first crescent, the waxing crescent, where, that person is coming out of the darkness, really seeking for the light, and then the balsamic moon is actually seeking for the darkness. So they have a similarity in the types of experiences they offer into their lives. And I find that oftentimes you find these people around each other. For example, I'm a waxing crescent and my partner is a waning crescent, and we tend to complement each other. It's funny, I tend to try to bring him towards the light, and he tends to try to bring me towards the shadow, but so that I can integrate it, and it really is a very complementary type of relationship. And I find that I also see that a lot between full moon people and new moon people as well. People that are totally sure of themselves and then people who are still learning. And you can have any combination of compatibility with all of these different moon phases, mind you, but it's interesting to see the correlations and the patterns and why they might happen. So these people with the balsamic moon are very much returning to the darkness. This is associated with Samhain, Halloween. And you are in the final phase of the current series of incarnations. So you're tying up all the loose ends. And what's interesting too, if you look at all the different aspects astrologically in somebody's chart, it's not just about the moon phase. Obviously, you can see all these different aspects that start to tell the same story over and over and over again in many different areas of the chart. And so that's how you really start to trust as an astrologer. You are seeing the same story show up in the rising sign, the degrees. You're seeing the same aspects, the same, even the balsamic coming towards conjunction between Venus and Mars, etc., etc. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's totally okay. But the point is that you can start to see the synchronicities in multiple different ways, and that's how you start to learn to trust the patterns, the cycles, and even as an astrologer, you can help people really understand how to use these energies and how to use these patterns for yourself. All right, so I've also written a blog on this. I hope this is helpful for you guys. And all right, so let's meditate a little bit on our moon and how we can receive the wisdom and how we can really settle into that integration space of past and future. So I'll have you guys close your eyes and find a comfortable seat, if you can, out in nature, but in the inner sacred temple of your own heart is good too. Take a full deep breath in through the nose and open mouth, exhale. Another deep breath in. And open mouth, exhale. Just start to drop into your heart space. Drop into your current surroundings. And get really clear about where you are at this moment in time and space. It's good to know where we are before we start to reflect on where we've been and where we're going. If you are aware of the nodes of your moon, you can call them into your mind at this time. You can take a moment to reflect on your south node, on your past, on your skills, on what you brought into this life that you have already mastered. And really start to feel into that, own that, love that, and see how you have grown because of that. Because of the strengths that you came into this life with. And keep breathing into that image. And now, just imagine the moon above you in whatever phase you're born in. And start to see its light or its darkness. But in any case, its energy, its aura, its magic. And start to pull that moon energy, that is your moon energy, down through the crown of your head, coming into your third eye, throat chakra, heart, solar plexus, sacral, root chakras, and back down into the earth. Pull up some Gaia energy from the chakras in the bottom of your feet. Let them come up through your legs, settle into your root chakra, and back down into the earth. So you start to feel this cycling between earth energy and moon energy. So the moon energy is continuing to come down through the crown chakra to the root, cycle down, and then you have Gaia energy coming up through the feet, through the legs, and down the root chakra. Just hold on to this vision for just a moment. Acknowledge that the energy is moving, that you're receiving its wisdom. Now you can let go of the visualizing, but trust that it's still happening. And now I want you to acknowledge your future, your evolving self. Where are you moving toward in this life? What's your north node? What's your evolutionary intent, if you know that? Why are you here in this life, in this time? What is your self-image, and how are you changing and growing, evolving, or always towards a more expanded, higher consciousness, more tapped into your sense of love and truth, authentic being? Now, acknowledge that that energy is also coming through the moon as well. And so as you continue to receive moon wisdom coming through your crown chakra, dropping down through your whole body, through your root chakra, and back into the earth, that place where you are grounded in this moment in time. Keep breathing into that wisdom and just receive it. Remember that the moon, grandmother moon, is a receptive energy, a yin energy. The energy of returning to source, the energy of taking that love and that light into our being. And take another full deep breath in. Pause at the top of your inhale. And open mouth, exhale. Release any attachment to the visualization, and just trust that you can always access this flow of energy anytime you need a reminder of who you are, why you're here, how you are grounding and integrating into your current evolving self. And starting to come back into the now, into the moment. You can open the eyes. I hope you all have a beautiful week. Thanks for being here.